Hi, Coach. How you doing? Isaiah Gaines selected Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week. Big game for him, with the 5.5 tackles for loss. It seems like he just kind of flipped a switch at some point in the season. What do you think the key has been for Isaiah?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously played his tail off. That's about as complete a game as I've seen, especially from that position. Um, I think just sort of that midway through the year, obviously he was, moved down the depth chart for a time. And then he just really just honed in on the basics of playing the position, the fundamentals of playing the position, and staying within the framework of the scheme. And since he's been doing that and just focusing on his job, he's really flourished. He's making the plays that he's supposed to make, and taking advantage of being in the right place at the right time, and allowing his athleticism to take over when he gets those one-on-one matchups.
I wanted to ask you about Northwestern too. What have you seen on film from their offense, and maybe some of the challenges and players that you got to stop on Saturday?
Yeah, offensively they are a challenge. They run every run scheme known to man. Every gap scheme that you could think of. They do it. The good thing is we've seen them all throughout the course of the year. So we got to make sure our fits are right. The tailback number 26 he's a good back. He's a lot faster than you think he is. There's a couple plays on tape, in that Michigan game where he's running away from people. They do a great job getting him out of the backfield. I think if I'm not mistaken, he leads the team in receiving as well. So definitely have our hands full there. Both quarterbacks do a good job. Obviously, number 7 is a big, strong runner as well. So they force you to play with all 11 people on the field.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Coach, I wanted to ask about Kirby. You're coaching the safeties. You're a guy who moved to safety in college. Kirby's kind of the breakout player of this season, leads the nation in interceptions. Can you take me through what this has been like? I mean, last year he was half wide receiver, half safety. So, I'm guessing this has been kind of a teacher-pupil kind of a relationship with him, of you teaching him the spot and everything else, and then just watching him flourish. So can you talk me through your relationship with Kirby?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I do though, man, shout out to you for the Kirby campaign and for the All-American honors. That's awesome, and I agree 100% with you. It's so when we got here in the spring, Kirby was still flirting with the idea of whether to play DB or play wideout, because he's got the skill set really to be able to do both. The thing is at receiver, with his size, with his speed, he's normal there, right? Like there's a lot of guys in the country that can do what he does from an athletic standpoint at that position. But you put him over to the defensive side of the ball, you get those ball skills, his length, his lack of fear when it comes to sticking his nose in there in the run game. And then you get those ball skills there as well. Now you have a player that is capable of making game-changing plays. And so in the spring, you saw flashes of sort of what you're seeing right now. It wasn't as consistent because he was still learning how to play the position, still learning what we were trying to do schematically. And then, we really saw him flourish in special teams at the early onset of the year, where he was making a lot of plays. And then I think it was the Virginia game when he had his first pick. It was a wow play. It was a play that really, and from my vantage point, was like, I got to make sure he's on the field all the time, because I don't know if we have anybody else, or I've coached anybody else that can make that play in that circumstance, especially that far down the field. And so, as we sort of transition to this style of defense, it was important to allow him to be in those moments more often than not. Just being able to overlap and use his instincts, use his ball skills, use his natural tracking ability to help us out on defense. And so I think just the marriage there, his athleticism, his raw talent, coupled with the change in scheme, and then really his focus on the little details of playing the position, on studying the quarterback. How are they trying to look you off, or are they trying to look you off? Where do they go pump fake the ball or play actions, who are they trying to target deep. All of those things kind of go together and allowed him to, or has allowed him to have success on Saturday.
And what do you think is, I mean, his skill seems to be breaking on the ball a step quicker than people. And that's not just these interceptions where he's chasing down the deep ball, but, there was a play on Saturday, runner, Goodson trying to get to the edge, and Kirby has read it and is flying to the spot. What, is that film? Is it just starting to click? Is he just sensing it? What leads to that?
I think it's a combination of all those things. Obviously the film study allows you to have confidence in what your keys are telling you, and then having the natural instincts to recognize what's happening offensively, and then just his ability to track the ball, and then again his lack of fear of contact. I mean, that half the battle when you're talking about defensive players, and I think that's something that all of our guys share that are on the field, is the want to have contact, right? Like to go in there and be physical, play physical. And I've never once questioned our team really in that matter. Like, this is a physical defense, this is a physical football team, and Kirby is not an exception to that.
Thanks.
Ryan, I think Robert and I are writing about the same thing with Kirby. He seems like a really willing learner as well. Coach B's talked about that. How is he kind of approached? Because he said you've kind of put him on a good path for his future. Like, how has he embraced that?
Yeah, like I said, when I first got here, it was like he was all over the place. Like, what do I think about receiver? Coach, I can also play corner. Coach, I can play safety. I can play both spots. And I'm like, dude, you need to focus in on one area. You know what I mean? And once he embraced that and really took all of his focus and then energy and attention on, I need to learn how to play free safety. Then he started to flourish, because he starts to get all that energy and all that the knowledge that he wants to have into one thing. And then he starts asking the right questions. You know what I mean? Like, you get in the film room and I'll be going over install, and I may breeze over something or miss a minor detail, and it's like he asks it right away, and I'm like, okay, now you're thinking the right way. Like, I know how you got to that question. I know you're processing the information correctly, and now we've got something. You know what I mean? Him and Sydney, they talk constantly. I know you guys have heard me talk about that, but they're always in communication, and they make this whole deal work. Like, the magic with the defense and the shell we're presenting is large in parts of their communication.
And then he's one example of it, but Owen, Isaiah, Keith,
Absolutely.
like some of these guys. What does that do for you as you go on the trail looking for more players, whether it's transfers or prep prospects? How much does that matter, having this first year success?
I think it definitely matters for a couple reasons. One, we can show, now you have something tangible that you can show prospects, say, this is what we're doing, this is why it works, this is where we see you having success here. And then for us as well, it identifies what type of players we need to go out and find, what type of roles we need to fill. What does that body type look like? What does that skill set look like? And really allows us to slot guys in the positions, instead of trying to figure out, what are we going to be? Now you've identified that, and you can hone in more accurately on what you need.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
Ryan, when you're fully healthy, when your unit's fully healthy, I know you still have concerns about interior defensive line to start with. Now you're missing Rod and Jamal on Saturday. I was curious how you thought those interior guys did, Calvin and Vertus, especially against a guy who might win the Remington and is an All-American at center.
It's I was proud of their fight, their grit throughout the week. Obviously we were short just in terms of depth. Vertus is a guy that was playing offensive line at the start of the season, and he really played some quality snaps for us, especially late in that game. Was it perfect? No. I mean, they ran for 170 yards off of like 52 attempts, I believe. But you hold the team to 250 yards and 3 yards per carry, or 3 yards per play, so to speak. There's a lot of good things in there on that film without having those guys in the lineup. So You know, hats off to Coach Jameson on getting those guys ready to play. And really fighting throughout the whole course of the game. I was proud of the way they handled it. You know, this team has always handled adversity well. And you know, Saturday I thought they obviously wasn't good enough to win a game, but those guys battled.
I think on the D line, there's been obviously moments with, you know, Keith and Johnny Newton and even like a Seth Coleman that you've been able to see this year. But have there been overall just are you seeing steps each and every week that these guys are taking that encourage you as you go into year 2 and year 3 of this rebuild?
Absolutely. I mean, you got to think too, like Keith and Johnny and those guys, those are young guys still, you know. And so I think their future is bright there. You see consistent improvement with technique, just the consistency with which they play with proper technique and proper leverage. And they understand the importance on why they need to do so and what happens if they don't. I think that's also tangible and real now through this course of the year. So I definitely think the future is bright there. Like I said, Coach Jameson's done a great job with those guys, and they continue to improve, no doubt.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Hey Ryan, there were a couple drives on Saturday that you guys, your unit just started in kind of tough field position there. What's the message that you give those guys to? I mean, I don't know, maybe one touchdown out of some of those, but to kind of hold tight there and a field goal, or in some cases nothing. How did you guys deliver time over on that?
You know, it's just like you put the ball down. So our message to the guys and I think it's been consistent this season is, you know, anytime we're on the field, let's just go play. Like, let's enjoy playing the game, and not worry about what's happened prior to or what's going to happen next. Just let's put the ball down, let's go play, and don't let them in the end zone. And I think that's been our motto throughout the season, and I think Saturday was just another example of that. Like, we've done well in sudden change situations. We've done well, you know, when we've been backed up, and you know, that's kudos to those guys for not caring about what's going on and just being competitive and putting the ball down and let's go play.
Coming into this final regular season game for you, what's this been like this year for, you know, like just from a growth standpoint? What's the biggest thing you've kind of learned about yourself as a coach and a coordinator in the last 11 months?
Some self-reflection, huh? I haven't really thought about it. You know what I mean? I just know that I've been appreciative of this season. I've been appreciative of this opportunity. We're not done yet. Like, this is a big game, a rivalry game, a trophy game, and so, you know, I'm not ready to do that yet. I'll do that at the end of the year, and whenever that may be. But I know that gratitude is the biggest feeling I've felt throughout the course of this year.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Kind of a similar vein, Ryan. Defense only gave up one touchdown. The other ones were scored on special teams or on Iowa's defense. So how do you evaluate the play in a game like that of your squad as a whole and the confidence you have going into Northwestern?
I mean, I've got the utmost confidence in our guys. You know, without question, I got the utmost confidence in the staff. You know, I think you just evaluate the tape for what it is, and you point out things that you can do better. You point out what you did well, and you control the things that you can control. You know, did we play well enough to win the game? I don't think so, because, you know, there was a point in the game where we were ahead, and you know, you look up and you're on the wrong side of the score when the game is over. Do I think the guys fought all the way through and played winning football for the most of the time? I would say yes. But like I said, there's still areas that we need to improve and things that we can do better as a staff to put our guys in positions to make more plays. But yeah, there were a lot of good things on the tape that you can teach off of and build upon. Absolutely.
Hey, thank you. Good luck.
No problem.
Thanks, Coach.